Welcome to the Recovery Road. I'm your host, Scott Cahill, and we'll be spending the next 30 minutes talking about the cycle of alcohol and drug addiction, addictive behavior, and more importantly, the steps towards recovery. The Recovery Road is brought to you by 449 Recovery. If you're looking for information about drug addiction and alcohol abuse, please go to 449recovery.org or by calling 855-449-4490. Counselors are standing by. Joining me today, the CEO, founder, and visionary of 449 Recovery, Mr. Rodney Robinson. Rodney, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you, Scott?
I am doing fantastic, and how are you this evening?
I'm doing quite well.
Rodney, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Recovery Road. We have a lot to talk about and not a whole lot of time, so let's go ahead and get right to it. First and foremost, Rodney, we all want to congratulate you. We understand that you've recently celebrated your 25th year of recovery. Is that correct?
That's correct. Big moment for myself and my family. Just a huge milestone and something that I never envisioned happening when I originally got sober, but something that I truly enjoy today, and it's unbelievable, really. And I'm very, very grateful for 25 years continuous sobriety.
And certainly congratulations. I know for a lot of people in recovery, they consider the first day of their sobriety almost as a second birthday. Is that correct?
Well, you know, it seems to me as if the real birthday, your natal birthday, takes a back seat to your sobriety birthday. I mean, that's when we really celebrate. So it's fun. You know, I'm fortunate because I have two birthdays in March, and I get to celebrate both of them. So.
And we won't ask you to reveal your age.
Yeah, I try to get my family to give birthdays on both birthdays, but it doesn't always work out.
Well, congratulations once again. Rodney, for new listeners to the show and those that may be new to 449 Recovery, can you go all the way back to the beginning and tell us your story and how you became pretty much one of the most popular drug and alcohol counselors there are in the area?
Well, the thing about it is that I had no intention to become a drug and alcohol counselor. I was working for the state of California in the penal system, and fortunately I was able to get sober while I was losing my job. And, you know, I was looking around for different work, and I found some good jobs, but just seemed to be as if it was meant for me to go there. I did a lot of volunteer work at the facility where I originally got sober, and so I volunteered. I showed up there, and I was there every day. Every free moment I had, I just stayed there. I hung out with the alumni, and I went to meetings with the alumni and just grabbed hold to my sponsor, who also was an alumni of the program that I went to, and I went to 12-step meetings, you know, every day, sometimes 2-3 times a day, and I just hung on. I hung on, and by doing that, I became very familiar with the treatment center that I went through, and I became a really important part of their program, and they wanted to employ me. So at one point, I reached that time when you're looking for a job, and I called the facility, and Dinah Fox was the program director there, who I'll always be grateful for. And Dinah Fox told me, she said, I asked her for a referral for a job where I could go and, you know, apply for a job. And she said, don't take a job. You're natural. We want you working here. And she hired me, and I went to work for that facility, and it wasn't like working. It was so much fun. Working in recovery is a great deal of fun. It's work that I would do if I didn't need to work. So I enjoy what I do completely. It started back then, and then I started going to school and getting degrees and, you know, becoming very involved in recovery and every aspect of recovery, working from, you know, the phones and taking care of clients right up to becoming a therapist and working as a CEO for 449 Recovery.
That is fantastic. Now, even taking it a step further, when you yourself were in the throes of addiction, tell us a little bit about that. What was the lowest point of your addiction, and When was that moment of clarity where you said to yourself, Rodney Robinson, you need help?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. People who have been addicted get this. People who aren't, they don't really get this story. But I was sitting on the couch in my crack-ridden apartment house, and I was staring at the doorknob where I had placed ketchup packets because I was so paranoid I could continuously see the doorknob spinning, that someone was coming in. And I always thought there was snipers across the street watching me, and the FBI had me pinned down, and helicopters were coming in any minute, and the drugs just overstimulated the fright center of my brain, and I became extremely paranoid. And so I was sitting there, out of money, out of drugs, a huge hole in my gut. When you use drugs, what happens is it kind of fills that hole inside of you. It fills that doubt. It gives you everything that you want. It makes you feel like you don't need anybody or anything else. You got what you want right here and right in front of you. And you can control that. You can't control what people think of you, but you can control the drug. And as I was using the drug, I was filling that hole. But when you run out of the drug, the hole gets huge. It becomes all-encompassing. And so therefore, I was sitting there with this huge hole in my gut, trying to live with myself, extremely paranoid, and I just watched the ketchup package, and I said, oh, my God, I can't live like this anymore. I got to the point where I didn't want to live, and I didn't want to get high, but I couldn't stop. And I asked God's help, and I grabbed some people who knew how to stay sober, and I wouldn't let go of them.
Now, I'm sure you later found out, too, that for people that are abusing crystal methamphetamine and cocaine, that type of paranoia is very, very common amongst hardcore drug users. Is that correct?
Exactly. It's very common and something that I live with. The moment that I would get high, it would start all over again. I would tell myself, you're not going to trip this time. Just make sure that you calm down and, enjoy it. And you're going to get paranoid, but it wouldn't matter. I had to check windows, doors. I thought people were following me. It was horrible, but I couldn't stop.
And I know this is something we didn't really talk about before the show, but is it more pronounced with crystal methamphetamine as opposed to cocaine simply due to the crystal methamphetamine high being so much longer? Does that intensify that paranoia?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can get it for a lot cheaper. You can get a whole lot more. The high lasts 6 hours, whereas the cocaine high lasts 20 minutes. So the idea of using cocaine, you get really high, and then you have that agitation period where you come down, and you've got to get high again. So the emotions from the cocaine usage, once you get to that point where you plummet to those lows, it's a little bit different with crystal methamphetamine because you can be high for days. People go on what's called 3, 4, sometimes as long as 10-day or 14-day runs where they don't sleep. And at some point, your body has to sleep. And even if you're awake, your body will go into what we call REM sleep, rapid eye movement. And what happens is once it goes into that and you're awake, you do things that you don't realize you're doing. You do crazy, crazy things. You get into fights. You show up places you don't know what you did or, what you got involved with. And things just get really, really hairy.
Wow. That is amazing.
I heard one young man who had used so much crystal methamphetamine that he had gotten himself to a point where he had paranoid. He got to the point where he was using so much crystal methamphetamine that he became schizophrenic by drug-induced usage, and said that when he used crystal methamphetamine, he felt like he jumped on the roof and could spit fire.
Wow, that is some scary, scary stuff. Go ahead and talk to us now. Well, obviously, as the CEO of 449 Recovery, you probably have a little bit of a different role, or do you still concentrate on what you are doing best, and that is being one of the top drug and alcohol counselors?
Well, I wear several hats. I enjoy working in treatment. That's my That's the thing that I look forward to the most. I think that I get to the people who struggle with drug addiction, and I think that I understand them, and I have a way of helping them. It's not the only way, but it is a way. And I think that I'm able to get to them, and by enjoying that and doing that, I want to concentrate on that, not get away from that. But at times here, finding out how to be a CEO has been a challenge. Learning how to run a company, learning how to manage several people. Even though I've been in this position for years and years, it's different when it's your own dream. It's a little bit more difficult because the idea of it is so precious to me. The idea that I can help people for a real reasonable price, get them the best treatment, and help them to turn their lives around, to get their families back, to get their careers back, to start out anew, to build something that helps this world. I think that's the kind of thing that we should all look forward to doing.
Well, absolutely, and it is obviously your passion and your life's work, and quite frankly, the world is a better place for the work that you do, Rodney. And at this time, it's a fantastic segue for me to say, if you know somebody that has a drug problem, has a problem with drug addiction, be it alcohol, be it crystal meth, be it cocaine, please, 449recovery.org. A lot of great information on how you can get help. And once again, they have a 24/7 hotline, counselors standing by. 855-449-4490 is that number. If you happen to be listening to this show on a podcast or maybe a YouTube video at 3 or 4 in the morning, no matter where you're located, please pick up the phone, 855-449-4490. Now, Rodney, one of the other things that you're really well known for is that you are one of the leading interventionists. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process of intervention?
Well, intervention is tricky. One of the things that people have a tendency to do is watch a television show, not to denigrate the television show or criticize it at all, and think that that's an easy thing to pull off. One of the hardest things to do is to confront a loved one, especially when there's so much on the line. When their life is on the line and you know it, and you want to convince them that it's time to change, a lot of times you run up against a wall, and that person doesn't want to hear it, and you're afraid. Often the family's afraid that when they confront someone who has a drug addiction, someone that they love and they're trying to get help for, that person might get upset, that they might get to the point where they are depressed, to the point where they may commit suicide, or they may shut them out, not talk to them anymore, continue on in their way, get so mad that they blame you for what they're doing. The idea is that when a person gets to that point, in your heart of hearts, you know you have to do all that you can to change them. And so it's important that the family gets it. It's important that the loved ones get it, that this is a very, very scary disease. People die. We were I ran a group the other day, and at the start of the group, we ran a statistic that a computer program that shows how many people die from drug addiction. And we ran the group ran for an hour and a half, 90-minute group, and 9 addicts died in the United States from the time we started that group to the time we ended that group. Wow. So the idea of this addiction thing and intervention, you absolutely have to do the intervention, but you have to do it with a professional there, someone who can help you, someone who can give you the opportunity and the tools to talk to this individual, to get them the help that they need, and also provide a good boundary for you and for the family so everyone's safe, everyone gets to get involved with the process and communicate their real feelings. And it's a very, very powerful process. We've seen a lot of lives change as a result of our interventions.
That is fantastic. Now, 449 Recovery has also revolutionized interventions in that you're offering really one of the lowest cost interventions available. Is that correct?
Well, in my mind, the way I think about it, and the reason why I wanted this done, is because I would much rather us get a person in to change their life than make it impossible for those who can't afford an intervention to get an intervention done. And what I mean by that is that interventions traditionally cost somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000. They can cost quite a bit. We decided to come in at a rate where, you know, you pay for that counselor's time, that trained counselor's time to come in and do the intervention, and that's it. We don't want to give a person who has no ability to pay $5,000 to do an intervention, or $3,000 or $2,500, the idea that they can't get help. We want to help everyone that we can. Not everybody's going to want our help or think that we're the right person for them, but those that do can attest to the fact that we've been very successful with helping others.
Well, that is just fantastic. Once again, and I understand the philosophy behind it is, how sad is it that maybe a family in need would be prohibited from seeking help for a loved one simply because of those cost factors. So it's got to feel pretty good for you, right? That once again, that you've made something maybe financially unavailable to some and made it a tangible reality for those seeking drug and alcohol treatment. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think that, you know, we've become so jaded in our society that we don't believe that anybody's willing to do something for someone else. And it's not so much doing it for someone else as it's doing the right thing. I want our company to always try to do the right thing. I want us to be standing there when a person needs help, to offer our hand, to try and pick them up out of their morass, and to get them out of that ravine that they've got themselves into, and to allow them a chance and another opportunity to turn their lives around. It's important to me because there was somebody standing there for me when I got sober. I remember calling a woman at the program that I went through. I didn't call a woman, I called the program, and there was an intervention performed on me by fellow employees. And these are all big, scary guys, and they all showed up and said, "You're going into treatment." And I said, "Okay," because I wanted to live another day, right? So I went to the program, and I called the program, and I thought I was looking for any reason to not go, because I was afraid to change, and I was afraid to look at something that I knew nothing about, which was living life sober. I was terrified. So therefore, I'm calling the treatment center looking for any excuse, and the nicest lady in the world answered the phone. Her name was Jody, and she said, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" And I broke down crying, and I said, I can't go on like this. I don't know what to do. And she told me it was going to be okay. And she was the right person for me to talk to at that time, because I felt as if she understood me and she cared about me. And that's what I needed, because I hated myself. When I first tried to get sober, I couldn't even look in the mirror without saying, "I hate you." So therefore, I got to the point where in my relationship with this woman, this angel, I was talking with her, and our relationship, I felt as if I could trust her. And I changed. Things changed. It changed my whole life. It changed the whole life. And I have a daughter who's 18 years old. Now, we talked earlier about me being 25 years sober. She wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for sobriety. She wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that treatment center and the 12 steps. She wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all the wonderful people that I've come in contact with since then. I intend to pass it on because it was passed on to me.
Wow, that is a fantastic story there. And once again, if you're watching this on YouTube or iTunes or on the podcast, and you know somebody that is in need of help for drug and alcohol treatment, please go to 449recovery.org or give them a call, 855-449-4490. Now, Rodney, I know one of the things, judging by some of our past guests, that they have all spoke about as a pivotal cog in their recovery is the 449 plan. Can you go into that a little bit and talk about what role that plays in recovery?
Well, you know, the idea about recovery for me is this, is that there has to be a lot of change, and it's difficult, especially for people who are extremely intelligent, very manipulative, overly intelligent, overly sensitive. That's what happens when you get people in the recovery. They can figure it all out. They can manipulate. They're charming. Most of us are extremely charming, and we don't always use those powers in the right way. So the idea of the wheel is what we call it. To come into treatment and to tell us your story. The idea of the first accomplishment is we just want you to tell us what you think. What's the conversation that's going on in your head? We want you to tell us what your story is, where you've been, what you've done, and just tell us all you can. And then we want them to face the facts, which is if you can get to the point where you can get honest with yourself about exactly where you're at, you might be willing to take some help. Each one of these accomplishments incorporates 12 steps. It incorporates some of the wisdom that I've picked up over the years from people who have been I've been fortunate enough to come in contact with. And we always want to get somebody to surrender. In other words, look at what they've done to their lives, and then ask for some help. So the idea of getting a person to come in there and be honest with themselves, to take themselves to the point where they go, okay, this is where I'm truly at. And then get to work. We want them to get to work, which means we have numerous assignments we have them do. We have some of the traditional things that you see in other treatment programs, and we have our own things that we want them doing. And those that come into our program and actually get involved and do those things see a marked change in their reality. Sometimes I've got to sneak it into them, because if you give them an assignment, they may go, oh, yeah, I'll get to it, never get to it. So I find different ways to get those assignments into them, but that's what I'm looking to do. And then the fourth accomplishment, it's really strange. You would think that in an accomplishment arena where you have these 7 things that you want to accomplish, why in the fourth accomplishment are you asking for them to tell the truth? And this is a really funny thing to me. It's because I can relate to this, and that is that most of us in recovery have a very difficult time telling the truth. We tell the truth when it fits our needs. So for us to get honest and tell you what's really going on, that's really, the key for us, is getting to that point where we're looking at being honest with people and telling people our real life story for the first time. Sometimes it feels like there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to get things right at all, ever. And so now all of a sudden you're getting honest with your sponsor, and you're telling your sponsor that you have these things that you're afraid of, or you're having these things that you're not really being honest with maybe your wife or your girlfriend or your job. And so we try to encourage them to get honest, and I think that might be one of the most difficult things for us to do, is get somebody to actually get honest with their sponsors, their family members, their spouses, and the things that they want to accomplish in life. And then after that, the fifth thing is to finish strong. And the idea, the fifth accomplishment is to finish all the things that you've done. The step work, the writing, the relationships, the engaging with people who you've, had difficulty with, and also mentoring and peer counseling and showing other people who are not as far along as you are how to do it. And then we want to get them to show the other peers that what they've been through, and like, for instance, a person might not be able to relate to me. I'm sober 25 years now. And you walk in and you're sober a week. You might not be able to relate to me because, God, how can a guy be sober that long? But there's another guy or young lady who's been in the program for 30 days, and you look at them, or 60 days, and you look at them and you say, well, maybe I could do 60 days. Maybe I could understand them. And then a person doing that actually learns. Once you become a teacher, it's really when you start to learn. And that's one of the things that I wanted to incorporate in our program and get people involved with and have them get an opportunity. Before I finish this, is there anything that you needed to ask me?
No, I'm really enjoying listening to you talk about the 449 program, and I can tell you that this program really does work, ladies and gentlemen. Every previous guest that we've had on the show, and every person that we've talked to that Rodney has helped, they are all following the program, and every one of them mentions that this is the program that keeps them on track. And while some people may be familiar with the traditional 12-step program, the 449 program tweaked it a little bit, maybe made it a little bit more user-friendly. Would you say would be a good way to describe it, Rodney?
Well, the idea is that we want to make sure we cover everything. We don't want to leave anything uncovered. When they leave our program, we want them bulletproof. That doesn't mean everybody's going to stay sober. I wish I could promise that. But I think it gives you a better a better choice. And for the last 3 years, the programs that we've been working with have accomplished almost a 75% success rate of people who came into treatment and were able to stay sober for a year or more. So you can't really determine a success rate for over a period of time that's longer than that, because you start to lose track of people and what have you. But we were able to keep up with those people and follow those numbers for the past 3 years, and we're still doing that to this day. And the finish of the accomplishments is starting over, which we take you through the credit problems, the legal problems, the resumes, the job applications. What are you going to do to take over your life again? Are you going back to where you were at? Are you moving forward? How are you moving forward, or how are you going to accomplish going back into the environment that you were there before? We try to answer all those. We don't give you the standard, oh, you come to us 30 days, wipe your hands, you're done. We don't believe that. This is a lifelong fight. Recovery is a lifelong fight, one day at a time. And the last thing that we want to do is we want to give back, which means that the people who come to our program are really pushed to do something to help other people, to help other communities, to reach outside of themselves, and to create something really, really beautiful, some audacious goal that we want them to accomplish before they leave this place. So we want to give them the entire picture, and most programs are set up for a short stay, and we have a program that we think that you can do for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
You can use the wheel. You can use the wheel in every area of your life. If you use it in relationships or you use it with eating, it works wonderfully. So I think the idea of it working in recovery is where we started, and I think that's I think it's a wonderful plan.
Absolutely, and based by the people that I know that have gone through the program, it really is remarkable, the transformation that takes place. And I think the thing that I respect most about the program too, Rodney, is, and I think you said it best, there's a lot of programs where people simply check in, get kind of a bill of health, if you were, hey, you're sober, and out you go. And there's a lot of people that have been, drug addicts for 10 years. They don't know what it's like to have to pay an electricity bill or set up a checking account. So for you to be able to prepare them for what comes next, it really seems like a sensible step towards recovery, right?
Right. A lot of folks come into treatment and they don't know how to even hold on to any money. They spend their money as soon as they get it, and we want to teach them how to start looking towards doing what they want to do to achieve some life goals. Knock some of that bucket list down. But get involved in your life. We want you involved. We want you.
That is just fantastic. Hey, Rodney, we're actually, the time goes so fast, and I could easily sit here and talk to you for hours, but we are running out of time. I'll tell you what, do you have just a couple words for somebody that may be listening to the sound of your voice and maybe needs a little encouragement getting into a program, or maybe they have a family member who's in need of help?
Yes, I'd like to tell them that our doors are open for you. We don't want to tell you that you've got to do things a certain way. We want to try to find the way that helps you become successful. We're here for you, and we're pulling for you. And your seat is waiting.
Well, Rodney, thank you so much again for joining us. You have a fantastic evening, okay?
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, sir. All right. And if you are in need of drug or alcohol treatment, please go to 449recovery.org or give them a call at 855-449-4490. And for the Recovery Road, powered by 449 Recovery, I am Scott Cahill saying good night.